The following episode contains language and descriptions of violence and self-harm. It may not be appropriate for all listeners, but it was my life. Discretion is advised. What up, what up? Welcome back to another episode of Roll Call with Chappy. This is a special treat, and this is a treat for myself, too. So I got Matthew Morgan all the way here from Miami, and I've been following this dude for quite some time. Big shout out to my boy Trevor Rebish for making the connection here, too. So do me a favor, let everybody know like how to find you on Instagram and everything.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Peter, thanks for having me, brother. Instagram's at the Matthew Morgan. TikTok's at the Matthew Morgan.
TikToks.
I think Twitter's at Matt L. Morgan. And that's about it. I'm going to do some YouTube later. Going to get another podcast going. People keep asking me to do that. So
yeah.
Just not enough hours in the day.
There we go. So this is, like I said, this is going to be a treat for me because I just shared with you guys earlier, you know, like when I got out of prison, I didn't know how to do anything. And like, I literally like learned how to live life by watching Instagram stories. Like no joke. Like I've always shared like watching Frisella, Bradley's, you, Cody Alt and all that stuff. Like no joke. And I'm serious. Like, so I was a finance manager at Marquee, that car dealership right on Indian School in the 101.
Okay.
And my office was like directly looking at the freeway. So when I got out of prison, I became successful, but I worked every single weekend.
Right.
So like I just had my free time and I was like looking at it and I'm like, I started making money, you know, a few $100,000 a year. And I was just like, you guys know all that does gives you a taste of what money's like. 'Cause then you start looking at like other stuff that you never looked at before, you know? And then I was just like,
The bug.
I don't really like taking orders from people. I don't like having a boss, you know? And I'm like, I'm serious. Like looked at it like if dudes like you and Cody all can come from a town of, would you guys have like 64 people in your town of Montana?
Cody came from a real small town. I don't recall. It's probably a couple hundred people or something.
Small ass towns like Montana. And I was
Yeah.
like, if these dudes can come out here with like zero connections, like whatever, and just do what you guys, because you guys, I mean, set Arizona on fire when you guys come out. Seriously.
Yeah, it was crazy. Montana doesn't have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everyone. Everyone's in each other's business.
And people are scared to take chances in the world, and that's the biggest reason I say people are so complacent. They have nothing going for themselves because, I mean, they could be unhappy and hate their lives, and they still continue to do the same thing every single day. It's
mind-blowing to me. You know, the definition of insanity is obviously doing the same thing continuously and expecting different results. But it's all based on fear. It's primarily fear-driven. And the brain is very good at what it does, which is make sure you survive. And unknowns to the brain make your brain think that you're going to die. So it literally will talk you out of anything that's out of your comfort zone. So you have to literally get your subconscious past the survival mechanism of the brain.
This is going to be good today. All right. So I want to know, like, how you grew up, Montana. What was it like for you? And then how, like, let's get into the transition to Arizona.
Yeah. So, you know, born and raised in Montana. Less than 1 million people in the whole state, but it's a very big state, the fourth largest in the union. I feel like I had a good childhood. You know, spent a lot of time on my grandparents' farm, 5,500 acres. I'm a 6th generation Montanan, so my family homesteaded in Montana in the 1860s.
Straight country boys. Huh?
Yeah, so I'm the first one to leave.
Okay. From
but
Montana to Miami.
You know, my parents got divorced when I was 4 months old.
Okay.
My father was a logger. My mother, when I was young, worked as a waitress at a Mexican restaurant. So I spent most time with my mother. And so I didn't know that we were poor, but you know, we were definitely on that.
You don't think about it because it's how you grow up, right?
No, it's like you just think it's normal, right? But you know, we'd hang out in trailer parks and do all that stuff. So, but it was normal. Ride bikes, you know, swinging rope swings, like how a childhood should be, in my opinion. There was no technology to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And so I think like, you know, I'm 37 now, but like I feel like we were one of the last generations to have a real childhood. I think the 90s was like one of the greatest decades of all time.
For sure.
After that, then it's been downhill since the last 22 years. So yeah, childhood was normal, you know, separated parents.
Sports and stuff?
Yeah, so like I would do track and basketball. I was too little to play football or anything, even though I wanted to.
Were you always a smart dude, or is that something you acquired reading, or?
I feel like, you know, looking back, hindsight's always 20/20. At the time, I didn't know. But, like, I was always kind of like a leader.
So you were smart, you just didn't know how smart you were back then?
Yeah, like, I was kind of like a leader in my little pack, but I was tiny. Like, when I was a freshman in high school, I was 5'3", 100 pounds. And, like, they put me in a dumpster my first week of high school, like the seniors did. And then,
they're not doing that anymore.
No, they all want to work with me.
Yeah.
But,
we're going to buy the dumpster.
Right. So, yeah, it was... like I said, a good upbringing, but you don't know what you don't know. And so I just felt like I was fortunate to have a mom and a dad, and I feel like sometimes my mom would like try to buy me things she couldn't afford, so I didn't get made fun of at school, like certain shoes and stuff like that. Yep. When she probably, like, I remember, she got in credit card trouble a few times, and my grandparents had to help out with that. And I think that all stemmed from her not wanting other kids to make fun of me. So she did the best that she could.
I love that too, because real quick, like and a lot of people do the same stuff. Like I have always looked at, because I grew up with a bunch of, spoiled, rotten rich kids out now with Tukey, and it's like, you always like look at people with money. I'm just like, oh, they just had a family's business just like that. And it's like really inspirational that you can come from like your town and just be like, and people don't know, like, look him up, bro. Like, you're killing it, like, right? Like for real. And to do that,
Thank you.
Such a short period of time, it's just crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
it's accelerated quickly.
What's even better than that is I feel like the reputation you have, like no joke, like because I know some big people now, and like every time I'm at like one of these tables or lunch or something like that, like no joke, your name's brought up at the table. You know what I'm saying?
That's very humbling.
No. For sure. And big shout out to Dan Fleischman. You're one of the first names that he brought up and we were talking about. And
yeah,
it's like,
he's a close friend.
And he's done, just him. I always compare stuff to prison because I'm like, prison was half my life. You know what I mean? It's like,
would Dan be a shot caller or what?
He would. There's so many people out here that would be shot callers. They just don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Because like I would never do it. I'm like, listen, I'm not a violent dude out here either. Like you have to do shit. You know, it's
of course.
You either be violent or be a lame. Like which one would you be?
Right.
I'm not gonna be a lame. That's
That's
as simple as it was. So you put on a front, get violent for 12 years and do whatever the hell you have to, and then you shut that shit off and retrain your brain when you get out.
It's like turns into instinct probably.
Absolutely.
It's like savages.
100%.
I don't know. I can't speak from experience, but
I
can read between the lines. And
that is what it's. And my point I was getting at is like, I've always thought that everybody that had money is like their family's handing it down to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that you can come from absolutely fucking nothing in that short a period of time, like should show people what's possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you're not happy, then start looking at, like, literally you can learn so much from watching people's Instagram stories.
It's crazy.
I'm no joke, bro. Like I learned life from people's Instagram stories out here.
It like accelerated you back into society.
It seriously did. I told all those guys that.
Trendiest, like coolest shit out, right?
Because like I said, all I did was work. So I had no idea how to do anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, business isn't. I'm serious. Like Skrill, I've been watching his stuff for a while too, and I was like, he's a interesting dude. You know what I'm saying? Seriously. Because he's the one guy that like Trevor, I told him almost the same thing. I still remember him like with the one picture you had where he had this big old bag of weed with like it was like a cell phone with the blue SVR Range Rover that you had.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at their shit. I was like, what the fuck do these guys do? You know what I'm saying? Because I could tell what you and Cody did, but I was like, I had no idea what the hell these guys do. And I think I told Trevor that when I finally met him. I was like, dude, what the fuck do you do anyways? You know what I mean? But there's so many hustles out there in the world if you just get out there and figure shit out. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. You got to put yourself out there and expose yourself to that uncomfortability in order to kind of see through the bullshit.
And get used to being uncomfortable.
Get used to being uncomfortable. I like being uncomfortable, but I never get uncomfortable anymore. So,
because if you're not, you're just like complacent though. Seriously, you know what I'm saying?
You're not growing.
100%.
And the times when I think back to the worst times in my life or the most challenging, that's what made me grow the most.
The shitty few days when it's tough, but then the few days afterwards, you're like, when you actually conquered something you didn't think you were going, like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
I've cried like a baby multiple times. Like
I cried 3 times yesterday. No joke, bro.
Hey.
You guys don't know, like I still pull up to my house and cry sometimes.
Yeah.
Like no joke,
I'm
bro.
sure you're very thankful for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I lived
have.
next to a retired FBI detective for 25 years in like a custom home community. You know what I'm saying?
What's
I was
up.
like,
yeah.
I spent 12 years in a 5x7 with the 8th grade education. You know what I'm saying? Got out covered in prison tattoos and never had a job in my life.
Guy's still the same, just the environment's changed a little bit.
You know what's crazy? So when I was like under that investigation for that attempted murder I told you, just to show you like how much you can do and how bad it was, like SSU came by my office, which they're like the detectives in there. Okay. So you have COs and you have SSU staff. SSU staff, they're the ones that are going to book you and stuff, right?
Got it.
They came by, then I was like telling them, I was like, yo, when are you guys going to let me out of here? You know, like I go home in like 8 months, you know, and they're like, they're verbatim, they're like, we're done with you in here. They're like, we're going to let the streets have their luck with you.
Wow.
And I sat in there until I got out. And they were just like, every single cop, and there was like, oh, he'll be back in 2 days. He'll be back in 3 days. You know what I'm saying?
And you never went back?
No, never went back.
That's what's up.
And I started, like, I literally quit my job once I started. Like, I was making CO's paycheck monthly, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm the finance manager, so they're coming there to buy their cars. And to be honest, I feel bad for them, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not bad people, bro. Like, they're to deal with the shit that we put them through in there, and like, see they're making $35,000 a year and like barely getting approved on these cars.
Worth it, bro.
And I'm just like, and I've literally like, I've always had survivor's guilt from surviving my overdose. And like, to be honest, like the life I have now, I feel like, for some reason, I don't deserve it. I'm like, how the fuck could I go through that much fucked up shit and like have this life now? You know what I'm saying?
Bro, karma's real, so that you must have done something right.
Dude, I had that talk yesterday and someone was saying that. I was like, to be honest, it's just karma paying me back.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Good things happen to good people.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, right. All right, I got a little carried away, dude. But I want to get into, so like Montana stuff.
Montana.
How old were you when you started like thinking about getting out of there? Or what did, because you got in like commercial real estate after high school out there, right?
Yeah, but like some things happened when I was a kid. My father definitely had the entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
And he was actually doing very well. He stopped being a logger. He ended up opening these businesses. He had galleries, art galleries, and for, everything's in perspective. But he did very well for being there. And bought a new house, for 350 grand or something in the 90s, had new cars and stuff. And then he's like, I'm going to keep expanding and buying more galleries. And so, this con man basically had him he bought a gallery in West Yellowstone National Park, which everyone's heard of, I'm sure. And then he didn't know that he needed a copy of the contract. So the con man from California changed everything to say that he still owned everything. So when he handed the contract, he's like, thanks, it's still my business. And he paid him all the money.
Stop.
So broke my father. And so I think I got the entrepreneurial mindset from him, but I just took it to another level. You know what I mean? And he had books laying around. When I was a kid, he'd have Wayne Dyer playing in the car on cassette tapes. And I'm like, Dad, why are we gonna listen to stupid stuff? He's like, you'll thank me one day. Trust me. Now. Yeah, right. Wayne Dyer was the first guru. He was the first guy that gets you to think differently outside the box from all this government educational bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I listened to that, and I think that probably subconsciously trained my brain. And then I remember when I was 12, my dad had a book, Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, and that was in the 90s. And I read that whole book when I was 12. I remember being in the back of his minivan reading that book while we were going on road trips and stuff. And so that started making me think differently about the world, being more of an optimist. And then I bought the book Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 16. And then I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 18. It was over. That was it.
Get in that mindset to try and flip that switch. When you just said it was over when I read that book, explain that to the people.
I started questioning everything.
Okay.
I started questioning our education system. I started questioning the higher education system. I started questioning what society considered rich. I questioned everything, and I was like, "This is bullshit."
I thought a couple hundred grand a year was rich.
Huh?
I thought of making a couple $100,000 a year was rich.
Bro, if you'd asked me when I was 17 years old, hey, if you make $250,000 a year, I'd be like, yeah, let's get a doctor. I'll do anything.
Yeah, I'll sign. I won't even ever try to make $1 over that.
They could have got me on the cheap back then. They'd have been $250 a year for life. I'd be like, done. Where do I sign?
Yeah, $25,000 a month salary and Matt Morgan's hours every. Yeah,
I would have done anything. Yeah. And now I don't know what I'd be toast. So it was just everything's perspective was everything, right? And so my family wanted me to go to college because none of them really ever did, and so I had to appease them. I did well. I never went to school in high school. I never showed up. I still got a 3.5 GPA, for the whole time. I almost didn't graduate because I had so many absences. So I was just always kind of I was rogue a little bit. I never followed the rules. I talked back in class. I hated being told what to do. Yeah. Started my first business when I was 16, a detail company. So I detailed cars.
Really? All right.
Yeah. So after school, I detailed cars, and then in the summer, I'd do it full time. So that was really my first business that I owned myself. Obviously shut that up, and then went to college when I was 18, the University of Montana. Made it 10 days. And I dropped out. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So my grandparents were like, we're gonna help you for the first semester, and then it's on you or whatever. And I went 10 days. I'm like, all right. First, I was going to be computer science. Then I was going to be business. Then I was going to be accounting. So I settled on business, which is the degree's a dime a dozen, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to these professors in business class. I'm like, I start doing research on them, right? I'm like, these motherfuckers have never run a real business. They couldn't hack it as an entrepreneur, so they had to go get a cushy $400,000 a year job being a professor. Yep. I was like, why would I ever listen to someone that couldn't do it in real life? I was like, that'd be like going to a trainer that's fat and be like, can you show me how to get in shape?
It's like asking a dude that hasn't been in prison how to get to survive in prison.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to talk to anyone about anything that isn't where I want to be.
Yeah.
So 10 days dropped out. My family's livid. Everyone's pissed. I'm like, fuck, how do I fix this? Because at this point, I still wanted to please people. Yeah. I was so young, I didn't know, I have to live for me and me only. So at that point, I scrambled, and I went and became an electrician apprentice with the electrical union. So I did that.
Morgan, the electrician.
Yeah, apprentice. So I was an electrician apprentice for 2 years. And it was fucking miserable. The negativity on those job sites, bro. And I was a very optimistic person. I'm still reading my little self-help books, and I'm just like, all right, I can fix this. Well, pretty soon I just I've had enough. And so I went to the union, and I was like, I'm quitting. And they're like, you're what? You're our best apprentice, blah, blah, blah. We'll do anything to keep you. I'm like, no, I'm done. So that's over. Next thing you know, I'm working for a contractor laying sewer and water pipe, down in these 20-foot trenches.
No way.
Hard ass work, yeah, making $16 an hour or something. So then my father comes in again, and he gets me classes to get my real estate license for my 20th birthday.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, I've been doing the sewer thing for like 6-8 months. I'm like,
are you thinking anything? Or do you think you screwed up on the college thing at this point?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I never wanted to go back to college.
Okay.
I was like, that's not my thing. I'll figure it out. In my head, I'm like, I'll just figure this out. So my dad gets my real estate license. I'm like, I'm going to be a realtor. And my whole family was like, because at this point, I've changed what I'm going to do so many times. They're like, oh, great, this jerk off wants to go be a realtor now. They're like, that's a fake job. That's not even a realtor. Because they were happy when I was an electrician.
Yeah.
You know, my grandparents, they were like, oh my God, like, you're going to be making like 75 grand a year. This is crazy. This is amazing.
You're going to take care of your grandmother now.
And I'm like, I can't wait. So I ended up getting into real estate. You know, I'm 20 years old, and I didn't look like this. I looked young. I looked like I was 14.
Okay.
I went and got some slacks and button-ups from my grandpa, and I was swimming in them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go sell real estate. So I didn't have any money, and my family didn't have any money, and it takes a bankroll to get any business going, and real estate's another business. So I applied for like 60 credit cards at the same time because they don't cross-check at the same time, and I got like 20, 30 of them. So I had like a credit line of like 50 G's. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to live off this while I get this business going. And no one wanted to sell real estate with me, go figure. So it took me 6 months to close my first transaction. At this point, I've maxed out every credit card.
What do you mean no one wanted to sell real estate with you?
I looked too young and naive, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I was a little kid. Like this, a piece of real estate is like most people's biggest investment in their lives. So they want to go with a trusted source, you know, that knows what they're doing, and
not Matt
some
Morgan,
kid
the electrician
that's
apprentice,
fumbling through his words that's scared shitless of the whole world, right?
Yeah.
So closed my first transaction after 6 months. At this point, credit cards maxed. I'm in my mom's basement. I'm miserable. I think about working at Home Depot every day as like a safety net.
Damn.
And I have $4 in my checking account.
Stop.
I closed this first transaction. At this point, though, remember, I've hired a real estate coach.
Okay.
It's like $500 a month, which is just a lot of money for me. We meet once a week. He's like, you got to call for sale by owners. You got to go knock on people's doors.
That guy now that you're who you are?
No, but I remember his name. His name is Brent Crow.
Okay, I was wondering.
I'm sure he'd be proud.
yeah, Brent, your shit worked, bro. Look at him.
Yeah, like,
so if you need coaching too, just look up the Matthew Morgan on Instagram.
But the thing is, bro, like, it made me develop like leather skin. I'm knocking on people's doors, cold knocking, and be like, you should sell your house with me. And they're like, get the fuck out of here, and slam the door in my face, right?
That teaches you grit, though.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Like I feel like the whole world would be so much better if they could either, for one, people should go sell cars for 3 or 6 months, or literally go to prison for 3 months.
Yeah, one of those two, or door-to-door sales, like vacuum cleaners or something.
Anything like that, yeah.
Because you'll see how people can really be, but at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter.
And you'll also see the ins that you can have with people if you approach them the right way. Because you could go to the same door and get two completely different reactions. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it's like, everything happens for a reason, and every no is closer to a yes, right? So it's like you can always think of things differently and be optimistic instead of pessimistic. So I sold my first property, made $5,400. I'm like, I'm fucking rich.
Rich.
I'm rich. Yeah. And so after that, I started closing transactions. I got comfortable. I got confident. I had these coaches. I had even a local coach.
Were you thinking at this point, just to go to the mindset, because I remember when I got my first check for selling cars, it was like $3,700. I was just like, holy shit! All right, I can make $3,700 every month, I'm chilling out here. You know what I mean? Was that what you were thinking? You're like, dude, if I can just do $5,400 next month, I'm chilling.
I thought I was like the king, right? Yeah. But I started closing transactions. So after that first 6 months, the next 12 months, I closed like 13 transactions. And then I'm like, all right, I got this. Like, and I had like a mentor, like a little bit older than me, who was making like $300-400. And he was like, I was 21, going on 22. He was like 27, 28. Same kind of situation as me, but he figured it all out. And so he was grooming me at that point. I bought like a $700,000 house on my 22nd birthday. I had new whips,
Damn.
So I lived in Mansion Heights, this subdivision of Montana where like the wealthy people live. And I was like this young kid,
Yeah.
They hated me. I had house parties all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm starting working with builders and developers, and I'm like really starting to catch my stride, overextend the shit out of myself, and then 08 rolls around.
What do you think helped you out to get there? Do you think it was just how you handle people, relationships?
Yeah, I've always been good at making friends and networking, and I just had to apply that more to business instead of just having a lot of friends. And so I started making friends with builders and mortgage brokers and insurance guys and developers. I'm like, hey, I found this parcel. And they'd be like, all right, I'll buy it. And I'm like, all right, then we're going to chop it up, and I'm going to sell the 40 lots to builders, and then I'm going to sell those 40 spec homes to the public. And so I just had this machine going at that point. But I was so over leveraged, and I didn't understand economic cycles, and I didn't understand how to manage cash appropriately, and I had lost everything in 08. I was 23. So I went from living in this mansion, new cars, I lost all of that, into living in my buddy's basement with like $200.
Back in the basement with Biden.
Back in the basement, bro. So I'm like, fuck. But now I had a taste of what that was like.
And so, at least you know it's possible because you've already done it now, right?
Yeah.
And so much of it's just knowing what's possible.
And and wealth in Montana is different, right? Like if a guy makes $400,000 a year, he's a boss, he's a king, and that's why they don't leave, because they don't want to be. They want to be a big fish in a small pond. And then there's guys that are worth like 10, 15, $20 million, and you're like, that guy's a king. But at that point, I'm like, I think I can get there. You know what I mean? Even if it's in Montana, like I was just like always like looking at angles, and I was just brushing shoulders with some of the more powerful people at that point. And so from then, at the tail end of my real estate career, people started calling me, and they're like, "Hey, I want a house with a big shop and land, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "All right, I found you the perfect house. There's no shop." They're like, "Well, no deal." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "I need the shop." So all these people were moving to Montana to grow marijuana, medical marijuana. So I'm like, this is ridiculous at first, because like I'd been taught that marijuana is the devil, and if you smoke it, you'll be a bum and you'll never do anything in life. And we made fun of the kids that smoked weed. We all drank booze like idiots, and we had all the girls, and they didn't get any action.
Well, that's what the world wants you to do.
Of course, that's what the government trained us to do, because you live in a fog with alcohol, but we can get in that later. And so I'm like researching, I'm like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? Like I'm cooked. And after like months of research, I'm like, dude, I think cannabis is the next big thing. And so I went to my dad, because he was very like, he's a big, like, strong dude, you know, he intimidated me. Like, I was just scared of him. Logger, you know, like packing a chainsaw around, sawing down big trees. Like, I bought like a rap CD once, and he like crumpled it up in front of me. And then, you know, Eminem became like his favorite artist. So it's interesting. But I'm like, all right, you know, I need to tell my dad that I'm going to start growing pot. So we were on a trip to Salt Lake to go see one of his friends who opened a bunch of gyms. And he's like, hey, and at this point, like I'm a man, right? So like I can talk to my dad about, like, we're like friends at this point. It's not like father son. It's like we're homies. I'm like, hey Dad, I'm gonna start a new business. And at this point, like I'd done very well. So like he's like, yeah, you know, you're gonna do very well in life. I'm like, I'm gonna get into medical marijuana. And there was like 30 seconds of silence in the car.
How much silence do we have?
Yeah, 30 seconds probably. And I'm like, this is weird. And he's like, I want in.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm like, fuck. So, and then my other buddies were starting dispensaries. And so, I'm still in business with Jason Washington. I don't know if you know him, but yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So he was in Montana playing football. He's like, I'm doing dispensaries. So we got on the cultivation side.
It's funny hearing that, because I've always like, I said I've been watching your stuff, and I always wondered, I'm like, how do they know each other?
Yeah. So he played ball at University of Montana. We became good friends, and we've been friends for like 15 years, like very close. And he did some time too for marijuana.
Okay.
But ended up getting a bunch of medical patients. I was a caregiver. And borrowed $80,000 scraped together from friends and family. My mom got a little inheritance from my grandparents, so she chipped that in, and just figured it out as I went. Failed miserably at first, fucked it all up. Yeah, almost went completely bust again, and then just got our feet under us and had a pretty good cultivation going in Montana. And this is 2008, and then in 2009. This gentleman
back then.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I was 23, 24, and then in 2009, this guy sold his waste disposal company for $40 million. And he was building this state-of-the-art cultivation. And it was like, I think 20,000 feet or so in Montana, which was big time. Deployed like $3-4 million. And then we partnered because he needed an operator to run that. So at this point, we're crushing. This is 2009.
Did he hit you up to partner with you, or did you?
I started growing some of the better pot in the state.
Okay.
And so my name started getting around, and he was like, hey, you know, I'd like to talk to you about being business partners. So I plugged my dad in there, because it was like out in the sticks. Mm-hmm. My dad likes it out in the sticks. Yeah. And I'm more of like in the action, cutting deals, shaking hands. And so we did that, you know, things rolling. At this point, though, I'm starting to see that I'm outgrowing Montana, and it's causing me depression. I just didn't like, I wasn't excited about anything there, you know what I mean? I felt like I hit like a ceiling. And so I was like, hey, Pops, you stay here and run this, and I'm going to go to Arizona, and I'm going to set up shop. This is 2010.
What made you choose Arizona?
So when I was killing it in real estate, I dated a girl out here that was like a go-go dancer in Old Town. And so
There's a couple of those out here.
Yeah. So I'd fly out like every other week or whatever. So I just loved it out here. You know, it was very mentally stimulating for me. And I think it's a great training grounds for like the big boy clubs in like LA, New York, Miami. It groomed me very well. And so I came out here, and I partnered with that same guy that I did the grow with. And I was like, hey, let's open up some hydroponic shops. Let me start to network through this shit. So I opened up this company called You Grow, started selling all the equipment to all the growers out here, and started networking like that. Opened 3 locations. And then the lottery came around for the licenses in 2011. So I'm like, all right, how do I approach this? And at this time, I had caregiver grows going up in Deer Valley. Okay. I had like warehouses going probably maybe a total of 4,000 or 5,000 feet.
Wow.
And so everything's humming along, but you know, I'm just like, I'm never satisfied. I was more, you know, I want more. And this guy talked me into going to this entrepreneurial class one day, and I hate shit like that. And then, so I went, and there's like 30, 40 entrepreneurs, all shapes and sizes, ages, different businesses. And they're like, everyone had to go around the class and say what they did for, you know, what they do. I'm like, I'm Matt and I grow pot. And so this old dude at the time.
You didn't get a good reaction back then probably either.
No, bro, this is 2010, like maybe 11. So I'm 25, the teacher's 65, he's 40 years older than me. He's like, hey, you pot boy. He's like, why don't you stay after class? I'm like, oh, great, I'm getting in trouble now in my 20s.
Yeah.
So he's like, what do you mean you grow pot? I'm like, I have warehouses and I grow pot and I sell it to patients. He's like, I want to see it. So like a few days later, you know, we met up, and I showed him these warehouses, and he's like, holy shit. He's like, this is not, because I'd had a finely tuned process built from Montana, so I knew exactly how to just show up anywhere and set up shop. He's like, this is not what I was thinking. He's like, this isn't some fucking hippies growing dope. He's like, this is a finely tuned manufacturing machine. I'm like, yeah. He's like asking me all the numbers and stuff. And from that day on, he became like my mentor. And so, you know, he's owned many different businesses, owned one of the largest construction companies in the world, and he lives up in Paradise Valley, and his network's like crazy. So like once I met him, like, you know, the gloves came off. He gave me the whole playbook on how, you know, the world works in business and everything.
Damn.
That meeting him was better than getting an MBA from Harvard, hands down.
Yeah, sometimes you meet the right person that can change the whole game.
Bro, we still talk. I mean, I'm going to see him while I'm out here. You know, he's like a second father, rich dad, poor dad. He's like my rich dad.
Damn.
And for some reason, we just clicked, you know. He took me in like a son, and literally just like, anytime I didn't understand something or anything, he'd be like, here's how you structure it. Here's an org chart. Here's reporting structure. Here's how you build financial models. Here's how you do decks. Here's how you raise capital. So like, I was just like, literally found the golden goose. Yeah, you know.
For sure.
And it turned me into a machine, because I already developed like thick skin, you know. I didn't give a fuck. I'd go up to anyone. I'd say anything. I'd go do anything.
Same.
I just needed that extra knowledge.
Yeah.
That turbo on the engine. So ended up figuring out that I wasn't going to get one of these licenses because they were going to go to people in the Good Old Boys Club out in Arizona. I was just some kid. So I partnered with this guy, and his dad was a senator in Arizona, so we put the senator's name on all the applications.
Do you know James Christensen?
Sounds familiar.
He started Territory, and he now partners with Verano.
No.
Okay.
The name sounds...
He has the same, like almost a story like
really?
that. So he borrowed $100,000 from his dad too back then, and just bet everything on weed right after the economy tanked.
So ended up becoming a lottery. You could have done it on a napkin, didn't matter. Balls in a hopper. We ended up winning the Sedona license. And then I went to Harold, my guy, and was like, yo, like, I won this license. He's like, let's go raise some money. And his network's nasty, right? So I'm like raising money from federal judges and like people like in DC and like...
That's real sales.
Yeah. And my pitch was getting nasty, right? I'm like 26 years old.
But you probably couldn't do that if you didn't do door-to-door sales.
No, bro. Know? Like my silver tongue got really, really crisp.
Yeah.
And so I raised $7 million around that license like fast. And so I started building out, you know, 30,000 feet of cultivation. I'm like, that Sedona's dope, but like I need a high volume retail. So I bought downtown Phoenix for $450,000 on terms. I put 150 G's down and carried 300. So now I had 2 stores, right? And had 30,000 feet getting built out to pump. And so I opened up Bloom dispensaries.
Damn.
Yeah, and that thing just took off. Like in under a year, I had 125 employees. I was doing over $1 million a month in revenue. I was crushing a lot of people. I got out of the gate really early. And so I kept expanding, got 2 stores in Tucson, and was working on acquiring more stores and building out more cultivation.
How are you acquiring these now? Just buying them from people that had them?
What's that?
How are you acquiring the different stores? Just buying
them?
Yeah,
because
people?
This is 2012. Nobody knew how much value was in this shit. You know,
so
like,
someone had them.
Like that downtown license would be worth $25 million right now.
I was just going to ask you, do you know like in Arizona what they're going, like $18, $20 million?
Yeah, just for the paper.
Just for the paper.
And you know, I've owned personally 12 or 14 Arizona licenses. I've gone through my hands. So Bloom's ripping. And I started to get attention from like big boys, like private equity guys, family offices that were like more on the edgy side, like kind of wanted to, you know, inch their way into the space. Yeah. So I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to take Bloom to Vegas now, to Nevada, because that was like the next hot thing. So I actually brought all the politicians from Nevada out to Arizona and showed them my operation. So they thought I was like the golden boy. I'm like, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. Here's how you catch people stealing like this. And here's how Arizona should change its regulations so that people can't do this. So I gave them like the whole like Bible in the pot. And they love me. But during all these times, this family office like found me. Like I'm in this meeting one day and I'm talking, and this guy goes, "My boss is looking for a kid like you," and he's like, "I need you to get on a private jet right now and fly to Florida." So I'm like, all right. So I flew to Florida, and this family, multi-billion-dollar family out of outside of Palm Beach, we're like, hey, nice to meet you. They asked me like a million questions, and I'm just like very like fast, like Q&A, and they have attorneys, accountants there, and like, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? I'm like, boom, boom, boom. So they're like, they flew their team out to Arizona and look at everything, and they're like, okay. So
you probably realized right then, you're like, I'm on to some shit here, right?
Yeah, and it was all happening so fast, because Bloom was printing.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen money like that.
And how quick did you go from like, because you're already
I
successful.
went from making like $3-4 grand a month to like 50, 60,000 a month like that.
Like overnight,
in under a year.
Yeah.
And it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So then they tried to buy Bloom. They're like, we want to be your partner. We'll give you unlimited capital to scale. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't have to raise money anymore. Like, raising money sucks.
Yeah.
So they tried to buy my existing investors. My investors they thought I was like the golden boy. So they wanted there was $7 million in, but they wanted 10x their investment. And this was been in play for like less than a year, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They offered them like 3.5 times their money, and they said F off. So they're like, all right, let me show you how the real world works, right? So they flew me back to Florida. They're like, we don't even care about Bloom. We just want you. I'm like, make me an offer. So they're like, all right, we'll start a new company. We get 2/3, you get 1/3, and we'll fund it with $100 million. I'm like, damn. And I just turned 28 years old. Stop. Yeah, I was like a pro athlete, like getting a nasty contract.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Because I'm like a kid from Montana, like that had these fucking posters of cars on my walls, thumbtacked on.
Literally, bro.
And like, that little board wall shit, like you could punch right through. It was like a pressed board.
For
It
sure.
wasn't even drywall.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was crazy. You know what I mean? But I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? So I got bought out of Bloom. And Bloom just sold for $212 million cash.
Jesus.
Yeah, but a New York guy owned it. I sold it to him.
Yeah, my buddy James sold territory for 185.
Yeah.
They had 4 out here.
Crazy.
And he was our weed dealer growing up too.
Really?
Like, kids, yeah.
See, I never sold dope illegally. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, he was the weed dealer our whole life.
Yeah,
bro.
a lot of guys transitioned over, and I was just like, nah, I see this as another business opportunity. So I took the 100, built out a real executive team, and I had Harold the whole time, my mentor, like, here's how you do this, here's how you do this. And so I hired guys from like Pepsi, Coca-Cola,
Damn,
Disney.
bro.
Yeah, I brought in like real executives from real big companies. And I was like, I don't want pot people.
Did you ever get worried that you were getting in over your head, or like you were like,
Never.
It's too big? Because
Bro, I have like this blind confidence. Like,
yeah.
I know I'll figure it out.
Same
You know what
here.
I mean? Like, you put my back up against the wall, I'll figure it out.
I've always said that. I'm like, because people ask me that, I'm like, bro, you could fucking throw me in Afghanistan, and then like within a year, I'm gonna be speaking the language, running the fucking tribes in
100%. You'll have a
Afghanistan.
big beard. You'll have the fucking
I'll be
towel on
running
your
shit in
head.
Afghanistan too. Yeah.
You'll probably be running something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure, that's what I said.
You'll be running the Taliban.
Yeah, for sure.
Missile launchers. Yeah. So, bro, that's when shit got really crazy. That's when, I had a lot of money. I roll into Vegas, I land, I go to the most powerful commercial real estate broker. I'm like, take me to the largest M1 zoned building next to the Strip. He's like, here it is. It's this 165,000 foot building.
That's where you put Reef?
Yeah, I was like, I'll buy it. He's like, well, do you want to make an offer? I'm like, yeah, full price. I'll close in 2 weeks cash. He's like that. And then Vegas is like, who the fuck
bro,
is
you're
this
playing
kid?
like that, yeah.
Yeah. Because and this is before I had any licenses in Vegas. I deployed 30 million in Vegas before I even had a license.
No way.
Oh. So if I didn't get a license, I'd have been cooked.
Yeah.
But I knew my apps. Dude, I put in 8 apps in Nevada and got the 8 highest scores. I showed 100 million on my proof of funds.
Yeah.
And like my background, and I'd already flown all the politicians out here to see my shit. So once they saw my name on the app, I knew it was a wrap.
Done.
But again, blind confidence. Like, it took massive balls to deploy that kind of
Blind
capital.
confidence and taking a chance.
For sure. Risk, yeah. How big your balls are in business are a lot of how well you're going to do.
For sure.
Because a lot of times people that are too smart overanalyze everything and talk themselves out of it.
Because they're too scared to take chances. Because they're like, I have this thing working.
And their brain's like, well, what if this
happens?
happens? Ching, ching, ching. What if this happens? Like, they psych themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some of the smartest people work for me. You know what I mean? They're a lot smarter than me. Yeah. Like, Henry Ford has like a famous quote. He's like, I can't really tell you that much about the company Ford, but I guarantee you, if I push this button on my desk right here, there'll be a guy here in less than 1 minute that will tell you everything you want to know about anything in this company.
Yep.
Right? He's a good leader. He's a master delegator.
That's what I always share about now. Because I always tell people, you got to hone in on what you're good at. I'm not
100%.
smart, not book smart, never been good at school. I'm not, but and that's why I say, I'm a hustler. I'm gonna go figure shit out. But if I need something smart, I've always used Fleischman as an example. I got friends, smart friends I can call and get their advice on.
It's called Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just as smart as it gets.
No, so I started firing, bro. Bought some licenses in AZ, and I was like paying $3-4 million at this point for Arizona license. I'm like, I can't believe I'm paying this kind of money.
Yeah.
But hindsight, right? Fired up Reef and just like blew up. And then like people are like, I had like 300 or 400 followers on Instagram, and they're like, bro, why don't you start posting what you do? Like, I don't think anyone's doing it like this. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I'm so deep. Like, you know, if I'm gonna get smoked, I'm gonna get smoked. So I started posting all this shit, and like, my Instagram started blowing up. You know what I mean? 5,000, 10,000 followers, like all these comments, like, and it just became like this whole thing. And then
I think I've honestly been following you for over 5 years, bro.
Really?
I think it's got to be that long. Yeah.
And then I'm out in my office in Vegas, that one across from Spearmint in the Strip by Trump Tower, and my Paul Getz, I think you know him, right? Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my god, he runs to my office. He's like, oh my god, Burner's here. I'm like, who the fuck is Burner? And what does it matter? He's like, this rapper, da 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 da. So he's like, he wants to meet you, because really no one was doing it at that scale and in your face at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like, we were perfect to get smoked by the Fed if they wanted to do it. And so I went and met Burner, and we hit it off. I'm like, this guy's super cool. You know, he knows the game from the Cali, the Bay, and we just hit it off and became really good friends. And so I built this whole plan around like utilizing rappers and celebrities, right? And Burner was the conduit to everybody, because he was known as the guy with the best weed. So I knew if me and Burner were partners, then every celebrity and everyone goes to Vegas. And I knew that if I got my weed in all those guys' hands on social media and on the internet, everyone would want to go there. It doesn't matter. Like if Michael Jordan wears Air Jordan shoes, everybody wants to wear the shoes. Yep. So I was like, that's my marketing. So with Burner came Wiz Khalifa, right? And then we did Khalifa Kush. And I just always kept it like the hype super high. And like my partners didn't even understand, like, why do you waste money? I'm like, you don't get it. Like, it's all about the cool factor. If the cool kids see the celebrities with it, they'll all come. If the cool kids come, everyone else comes. And it doesn't matter that most people can't afford the top shelf shit. It matters that they walk out with that bag that says Reef on it. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what's in the bag. So we built this whole business model around it, and Reef just like 3.5 years blew up. You know, like I think in 2017, Reef was probably the largest, most profitable cannabis company in the country.
Jeez.
So I'm on the covers of magazines. You know, I was named number 140 under 40 in cannabis. Like everyone's wanting to do interviews all the time. Like everything just started to happen so fast. All these celebrities want to be my friends, want to smoke weed with me all day. Like I'm like, the fuck, you know what I mean? Like
right? Yeah.
I remember when I was driving a tractor around, like thinking about wanting to build a saltwater
What
aquarium.
a good problem to have. Though. Too many celebrities want to smoke weed with me.
Yeah, bro. And like I'm getting pulled in so many directions, but I'm just like staying focused because I know how much Reef is becoming value-wise. And then in about at the end of 2017, Reef is printing. Like, you know, I remember doing like $1 million in a day. And yeah, like,
jeez, bro.
And I did 42 million out of one store, at one dispensary, which at that time was like record breaking. Yeah. Now there's stores that have done 90, 100 million. But back then it was like, that was unheard of. So once it was dropping like stupid money to the bottom, the family office and me started like butting heads. And hindsight's looking at what they were doing. Like they're like, all right, you're going to go out and find new opportunities to expand Reef. We're going to put our son in to watch day-to-day operations from Goldman Sachs. And so they were basically shoving me out. The machine was built that was printing. So now how do we get rid of this kid that we funded? Yeah, and I didn't realize that the world worked like that. Like I came from Montana, where you shake someone's hand, you have a deal. You know what I mean? If you don't want to do the deal, you still got to do the deal, because your reputation means more than any amount of money. And so
in prison on the road, but people lose their lives over breaking their word, bro. Like, no joke. Like seriously.
And like, you know, they started like doing stupid shit like, what's this expense for? Why'd you expense this? I'm like, motherfucker, I just built you a several $100 million company out of thin air. Like, shut up about $8,000 in expenses, right? So it just got adversarial. And then finally I took a buyout at the end of 17.
Okay.
And at this time I'm running around every day with Dan Bilzerian. We become like super close friends. Yeah. We were both in Vegas, both playboys, just doing our things. So yeah, we were together every day, and he's like, bro, fuck Reef. Like, let's go build another cannabis company, me and you, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of how all that went down. And
damn.
Then, yeah. So there was a few years that were just crazy. Like, it's all one big blur.
Well, yeah, what happened after that? How did the next year go?
Yeah, so Dan's like, please, let's build a company. All right, cool. So we shake hands 50-50, which normally I'd never give like the face, the star power, I guess you could say, 50% of the deal. But like, dude, he's one of my best friends. Like, you know, yeah, we were just like, and he's like a redneck hillbilly from Tampa. So we just like hit it off, and I had my own money, so I didn't need anything from him. And I think he just really enjoyed having someone around that wasn't trying to use him.
That was loyal. He could know.
Yeah, like, you know, my word is like my it's all I have. And like, I never asked him for anything ever. I never tried to take anything from him. I had millions of dollars. So like, I just we had a lot in common. We both like cars and hot girls and shooting guns and shit. So
I like all that stuff too.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a natural fit. And so we started Ignite. And that's when shit got even crazier. He's like, bro, we got to move to LA now. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, we're moving to LA. So I got my own crib in like West Hollywood. And then he got this crazy mansion in Bel Air that you've probably seen on all the videos, like 40,000 square feet. And we're throwing parties, and like, now the celebrities are begging to get in. Like, Dan was almost like the puppeteer of the celebrities.
Yeah.
And like, every celeb's coming up to me like, bro, you're running with Dan now? Like, dude, crazy. Like, I was at like the top of the food chain, even in LA, which was crazy.
And I'll be like, I saw you doing all your stuff, and like, I saw you with Burn all that stuff, and like, even myself, I was like, holy fuck, this fool's rolling with Dan.
Yeah, and I just kept going up,
you know?
Like, and so I felt very untouchable at that point. And
I got that tattooed on my leg on the forehead right there, untouchable.
Dope. My favorite tattoo is Suffering for My Success. It's on my peg.
Yeah, I got that one.
But so yeah, me and Dan were super tight, and you know, his father got involved in the business, and I don't know if you've ever read his background, but he's a tough guy. Corporate raider, you know, was making hundreds of millions in the 80s, which God knows what that's worth now.
Sure.
Assuming some of that funds Dan's life, or it did, you know. But me and his father really got into it. I'm all about respect and how people are treated, because I know what it's like to be at the bottom.
For sure.
And I know how, it doesn't matter what your skin color is either.
Yeah.
If you're poor, people fucking kick you. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're white, black, green, brown.
Yep.
It just doesn't matter. It's an economic issue more so than a racial. But so like, I treat everyone with the same amount of respect, because everyone's a human being and everyone has feelings, and like, I'm privy to that. So like, if you're the janitor, I'll stop and ask how your day is, and hey, can I get you a new broom? What would make your life easier? And people are like, fucking CEOs talking to janitor while there's 4 attorneys and 3 guys in suits over here going like, what is this? You know what
Tom
I mean?
Brady's still like that?
Is he?
Yeah.
I respect that. So then his father got involved. His father and I got into it. You know, it was very aggressive, and like, I don't back down to anybody. So I put my foot down, and everyone else cowered to his father. Like, his father was like the very, very type A. And so we just, you know, it kind of made me and Dan start to drift apart a little bit because of my toxic relationship with his father. And I just, the way he talked to people and stuff like that, I can't respect that. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about Dan. We were boys, you know what I mean? And I think he just needs true friends in a very cold world. So fast forward, we're building up through 18, through a couple parties that were probably some of the craziest parties ever. Shits on any Playboy Mansion party, you know, like, one of our Ignite parties had like 80 guys and 800 girls, and we were like taking his jet and flying around the world to pick up models to bring them to land in LA. Yeah, it was crazy.
I saw you guys got Chris Brown and Tiger like performing at the house.
Yeah. You know, and Chris was always over at the house, and Chris is super cool. And nothing but good things to say about him as well. And then, so Dan's like, Dad, give him out his paperwork, because me and Dan shook hands. Like, I'm a handshake guy, or I was.
Yeah, it was for sure.
And and this is August of 18 now, so we're like we're almost 12 months since we cut the deal. Me and Dan shook hands, and Dan's father hands me a contract that says I own 1/2 of the company, and I like walked out, and that was like September of 18, maybe October, somewhere in there, and then I never talked to any of them again, not even Dan.
Damn.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah. So that was kind of my...
that just shows you're a G, though, bro. That's what you should look at life.
Bro.
Like, if someone's going to burn me, they're just going to burn themselves in the end. You know what I'm saying? You're going to make it back.
I know, like, I'm a hustler. I'm a survivor. I'll always do well. And so, like, I don't need that. If you want to play those games, then I just can't have you in my life.
1,000%.
So from there, I started a pharmaceutical company that utilized, like, different cannabinoids out of the industrial hemp plant. And I created proprietary formulations that went after like over-the-counter modalities, like, you know, chronic pain, insomnia, sleep, stuff like that. Had like a crazy board on there of like very famous scientists. So I built that up through 18, 19 into 20, and then it got acquired like 6 days before COVID hit. Yeah. And so like, I don't know if you followed like the industrial hemp market, but once COVID hit, like 95 to 98% of the companies went out of business.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like there was like 12,000 companies or something, and it's probably down to like less than 100.
Okay.
It's crazy, but timing's everything, and you know, I I got out of that by the skin of my teeth.
Wow.
So from there, part of the deal was the acquiring company was a publicly traded cannabis company. So they're like, all right, that's cool. We'll acquire you, but we want you to become the CEO of the big company. So I was like, fine, I'll do it, even though I hate being told what to do. And so I become a public market CEO.
Is that what happened right before you went to Miami? I feel like.
Yeah.
I remember watching your story.
So this is like,
this
is in 20. So throughout 20.
This is for everybody else. This is literally so cool to me, bro. Because like I'm serious. Like I remember watching all your stories for 5 years. And I'm serious though, because I like all you guys. I watched like now that I know almost everybody out here. You know, I'm like I've watched these and I'm like. I just knew I'm gonna fucking be in the circle with those guys. Like literally, and I remember watching that and now I'm like sitting across from like hearing the shit and I'm like, it just shows you can fucking do anything in the world you want. You know what I'm saying?
For sure,
like,
bro.
Literally.
People underestimate what they're capable of.
For sure.
Like the human brain is extremely powerful, and I just think people suppress themselves on purpose. And they're like I'm infatuated with mortality because it's like the one thing that we haven't been able to pack or break. It doesn't matter how rich you are. The richest people are still in the graveyard, right? Mm-hmm. So like I read like people's biggest regrets on their deathbed and stuff. And the number one regret is I wish I would have tried more things in life. I wish I would have been more of a risk taker. So like I'm like, all right, well, I promise you, if I die tomorrow, I'll be like, I did everything I could do. Mm-hmm. Like I hit it hard.
For sure.
So like I just wanted to make sure I had no regrets. You know what I mean? And I've lived life like that since I started doing all this stuff.
For sure.
You know? And maybe when I was younger, I was more naive and scared, but I was like a little fragile kid. You know what I mean?
Course. Yeah.
So it was different, but yeah. From there, I did the public markets thing for about a year, and they, compliance would call me. Can you take that Instagram post down? That's going to offend someone. And I'm like, fuck you. Yeah. Like I didn't work this hard to be told what to do, and I'm 30, whatever, 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
So I resigned after about a year. Had an interesting separation from them. It was a toxic board. Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm trying to work out at my friends' gyms privately during COVID. Cops are knocking on the windows. Come out here. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm just trying to get a lift in, stay in shape. And like, that's when I started questioning the government and everything even more so than I did before. So I'm like, all right. So I just grabbed my girlfriend. I'm like, you want to move to Miami? She's like, sure. So in October of 2 years ago, I moved to Miami.
Real quick, and before that too, you're talking about using people's gyms. A lot of people that you guys don't know about this. That's how, and we never even met, but that's how we knew each other because you came over and used my gym.
Oh yeah. So you're right.
And you know what's funny is just because I'm like, so when I
quit so hot. Holy
I
shit.
quit my job, I had like 500 followers on Instagram, but I knew I had that Vice TV show coming out, so I was like trying to bet everything on that.
Right.
And just to show you guys how good of a dude Matt is, like for real. So he came over. I was in the car, so I worked every day. So
hours are crazy.
You and I think it was David Da Vinci came over and used my gym.
Yeah.
And my mindset is like I let them come over and use my gym because I had this huge like commercial sized gym pretty much when all the gyms were closed down. But me and I'm like, fuck, I can't even. He asked, and I'm at work. Like I work till like 9 o'clock at night. Right. So I let you guys over, use like open the stuff from my phone or whatever. You guys go over and use it. I'm like, and then you move to Miami, and I'm just like. Sick, you used my gym and I never even got to meet this dude. But then I'm serious, so then I dropped the podcast and I'm trying to get people to share it and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna ask this fool Matt, see if he'll share my shit. You know what I'm saying? But just and I remember I sent it to you and I asked if you'd share it and you're like, fuck yeah. And you don't know this, but like some huge people saw my podcast.
Oh, dope.
And gave me some huge connections. Joey Juice, a bunch of people like that.
Yeah.
And I'm in Salt Lake City with Sean Whalen, Dan Fleischman, Ian Went and all them.
Yeah.
And it comes out, and I never knew how they saw my shit, and they told me that it was from you sharing my shit, bro. So like, I owe you for that. And it's
bro.
No, but it's like it just shows like if you do good things for fucking people and don't expect shit in return, shit's gonna come after you. You know what I'm saying? 100%. Like open the door for people, and then I'm just like, and that's my mindset. I'm like, we'll see what kind of dude Matt is. If he shares my shit, it's dope. If not, it is what it is. I'm not on his level yet. You know what I'm saying? Right. But that was my mindset. And what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna turn into a fucking hater because you didn't share my shit.
Right.
My mindset was like, literally, if he doesn't share my shit, I'm just not on his level yet, and I got some more work to do.
But like. I would say one thing that's different about me from a lot of people because I've helped a lot of my friends get very wealthy. Because once you have the playbook, like it's not that hard. But like, I just always remembered where I came from. And I remember being like poor and I remember how people treat you. And so like, I just never forgot that. And I was like, no matter how wealthy I get, I'll never become a tyrant.
I said that's the biggest disservice I could ever do to myself is to forget how shitty my life was in prison. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
If I can keep that fresh in my head, and like I was having this conversation yesterday when I was literally crying pulling up to my house.
Right.
And I was just like, the worst thing I can do is forget this. You know what I'm saying? And like try to shut those emotions off. Like I have to keep it fresh in my head how bad my life was, so that no matter what happens to me today or tomorrow or something like that, it ain't shit compared to what I've been through.
You'll
you know
be
what I mean?
thankful no matter what happens,
No matter
because
what.
I promise you it's not as bad as a 6 by 8 cell.
100%.
You know what I mean?
5x7, bro.
5x7.
5x7.
I gave you a little extra, couple extra feet.
Can you even comprehend a 5x7?
Well, I have like
That's as big as me.
Bro, I have
Like you can put your arms like this.
I'd lose my mind.
And it's not 23-hour day lockdown, it's 24-hour day lockdown. You get 3 showers a week and 3 rec cages a week. When you go to the rec cage, they shackle you up and then literally walk you with your shackled like this and your legs, and then they stick you in this cage, and then you back up to it like this. They take all your shackles off, and then you get a 10 by 10 filthy, disgusting cage, and then you're in there for 2 or 3 hours whenever they come get you, and then they shackle you back up and walk you back to your cell, and then you wait 5-6 hours for them to do the entire building showers.
That's insane.
And then you only do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The other days, you don't ever leave that cell for a second.
My meditation would be so spot on.
Oh.
It's crazy.
And you know what's crazy? It's so bad. And like, there's a 10 to 10 rule. So you can't talk before 10 o'clock in the morning, and you can't talk after 10 o'clock at night. Like, you could hear a pin drop in this place that looks like Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, my God.
But the craziest part is you have to be up at 7 a.m. Mandatory. And you have to be up at 7 a.m. You can't even talk. So you have to wake up just to sign to people and shit. And it's so screwed up in there. Like we'd have like contests. Like it's like you're more OG if you wake up earlier. So like me and the head SDK would have a contest every day. Like who'd wake up at like 5:40 or something like that. And I remember I used to sit there and like wake up and like, what the fuck am I doing up? And like, why is my life like this?
It's an ego play.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's just like purely an ego thing. It's fucking funny though, right?
Dude, I would lose my mind because I have such bad ADD and my brain bounces
I have
so many
ADD
places.
and I'm claustrophobic. So, but that's what people say. Oh, I'm full blown claustrophobic. Like if I even think about small spots, like I get anxiety and shit. But it's like,
unless you're a violent offender, like I don't see how people stay in prison. I think our prison reform system is completely fucked.
That's like my biggest
No
goal
drug
was to change
convicts or like
prison
even like petty theft. Okay, if you go in and you have a gun in someone's mouth and you're pistol whipping them and you're stealing their shit, that's different.
Yeah.
But if you didn't harm anyone,
We had 10 kids that were involved in my case. It was spring break, what should have been my senior high school, just a full-blown burglary, nothing dangerous, nothing.
right.
And
Did
I
you
got
have a
12 years in
gun?
prison. No, I've never had a gun in my life.
Crazy.
Still to this day. I can't even touch it.
No, you can't.
I can't vote. I paid $52,000 in tax last year and couldn't even vote.
You were like a victim of our judicial system,
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's why I'm trying to change it so no one else has to
Hell
go through
yeah.
shit that I've been through.
No, didn't I like post like your case like way back in the day?
I think so. You posted a couple of things.
Yeah.
Really
I remember
cool.
like way back because I read about your thing and I don't know where I saw it, but I saw it somewhere and I was like, this is fucked up.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. So I remember like maybe that was like 2018ish.
Yeah, probably.
I just remember reading about your shit and I was like, damn, like this kid got fucked.
Yeah. It was all part of the plan, though.
Yeah. I mean, probably made you a better person. At the end
for
of the
sure.
day. And thankful.
Dude, we've been going at this for an hour. What is going on with you now, and like what are your new projects? And then like one other thing I want to get into real quick is like, are you still setting goals for yourself, and like how do you tackle now? Because I feel like a lot of people that would have your life would think they've made it and let off the gas and just be chilling. Because like,
Nah.
I don't even think people have a perspective on like how, like for real, how balling you are. And like you could be chilling for the rest of your life and not do a fucking thing if you want, and not living like the $200, $300, $400 a year lifestyle, like driving Lambos and shit, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So how do you keep your foot on the throttle, and then what are the plans you have?
I always said I was going to retire at 35, but I'm 37. I'm working a lot. I'm addicted to the game. So I'll start with like what I'm doing now. So I took some of the capital I made in my exits, and I was like, I still love weed, but like I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to show people that I understand business like at the highest level. And so I starting other companies, some e-commerce stuff. I'm heavy in blockchain and crypto, metaverse stuff. That's very mentally stimulating to me. Even though I love the real world. You know, I told you the 90s were the best decade, but I still, technology and how the human species adapts to it is very mentally stimulating for me. So I do that. I actually got involved in oil, so now I have a resource company that's an ancillary to oil.
Why not?
And now I'm going international with cannabis, so I'm working on, I just got all the licenses in Barbados. I'm about to buy a license in Greece. I just got back from Greece about 4 days ago. Yeah.
Damn.
And so I just want to become like an international like cannabis kingpin.
Yeah.
The United States has kind of played out, but I like to be the first. You know, I like to be like I want to have the first globally recognized cannabis brand. So obviously still heavy influence in cannabis, but I love technology plays. We got the oil thing going. I have a lot of businesses. I have this whole flow chart of things, but I changed. Before I was like, I want to be the CEO. You know, like in my 20s, I was like, I want to be the CEO because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's like a boss.
What society tells you.
But now I'm like, no, I want to be the puppet master behind the CEO.
Yeah.
Like, so I find like, I have a big gym brand called Boxer. Yeah. So that's 30,000 feet in downtown Miami.
BOXR for everyone.
BOXR. Yeah. Like got all like the hottest people in Miami going there. Andre Berto's world champion.
Mayweather was just, I've seen
Mayweather goes there quite a bit. Tory Lanez is always in there. Ocho Cinco's always in there.
Ocho is?
Yeah. So like a lot of celebs are coming through there. And it's super cool, like a passion for me. You know, I'm big into fitness. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And then biohacking, right? Like I told you.
Dr.
Like,
Drew.
Yeah. And so like I invest in like biomedical stuff. Like I invest in a stem cell clinic in Costa Rica. So I fly down there every quarter and get stem cells. So we'd have to do a whole nother podcast and all this shit.
We're gonna for sure whenever you come back.
Yeah. So how do I keep myself motivated? I think I come from a very addictive family. You know, my family has struggled with substance abuse. I recognized that I had a very addictive genetic nature when I was young. And so I tried to get addicted to things that bettered my life. Fitness, you know, biohacking stuff, business. And so it's like, I don't even know what I would do if I retired. I'd probably get in a lot of trouble. Yeah. You know, but like now it's like, hey, like you can't go out. Like you have to be at the gym at 7 a.m. You know what I mean? You got to go check on your gym. You got to do this. And like my day's so structured from one thing to the next that like I don't have time to go do anything.
Yeah, I love it.
But I like it like that. Like I feel like I have such a purpose, and I go to bed every night very fulfilled. You know, and I help a lot of people, whether that be through employing them or through helping motivate and give them opportunities.
You can tell by reputation.
Yeah, like I need operators too. So like I'll grab my boys that are capable and be like, hey, can you get on this project? And hopefully we all make a bunch of money. And so I don't think I'll ever retire. You know, I think I'll be like Warren Buffett. I think I'll be 96 and Charlie Munger's like, hey, you know, let's hit it. Like if they retired, they would die. Yeah, probably within like a month. So like it's not about the money for me. It's not about everyone wants to retire. It's like money's just a scorecard, you know? And like at the end of the day, like I think I'm probably gonna try to buy like 1 million acres of land and create like an animal rescue that rescues like any types of animals, exotics, domestic, because like I'm a big animal lover.
Same. Have you been at the dance place?
Not yet, but he keeps sending me videos.
Yeah, I know.
It's dope.
Yeah.
But like, you know, just like how there's homeless animals and they're getting euthanized, they can't control that. I don't have a lot of pity or sympathy for human beings.
I like animals more than people. I say it all the time.
Yeah, but we put them in that position and they can't do shit. So it's like, I want to help them. And if you can save a lot of animals, like that'd be very fulfilling for me. And then maybe have like homeless people that don't have drug problems and orphans come and they work with the animals and they get paid hourly. You know, and I'll set up like a irrevocable trust that gets a certain amount of returns, and that's what feeds that preserve every year. So like it can sustain for hundreds of thousands of years. So I just try to put like very big goals in front of me that would cost 10 figures to accomplish. And I'm not there yet, and I'm not a billionaire. So it really, every morning, it's just...
You said 10 figures, I was like thinking I was doing...
Yeah,
how many commas is that?
10 figures a billion, yeah.
I told you I wasn't
so
smart.
like, you know, I've been really focused for a long time. And I think that's what differentiates me is while all my friends were partying and fucking off in their 20s, like I partied too a lot. But at the same time, I always got up for work in the morning. Sometimes I didn't even sleep, but I'd still go to work. And I've been focused for a long time. Most people say like, you start to get focused in your late 30s, but I've been focused for 20 years. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see how my late 30s and my 40s go. And then maybe in my 50s, I'll do that animal preserve I talked about.
There you go.
But it's all about creating goals. Maybe they're achievable, maybe they're not even achievable. It's always fall in love with the journey of trying to get to where you want to go.
For sure.
Don't fall in love with, I can't wait till I get there. Because I'll tell you, sometimes when you get there, it's bittersweet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's been sometimes,
this sucks. I thought it was going to be so much cooler.
Yeah, bro. So like that's why you hear a lot of influential people be like, fall in love with the journey because it's the best part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's very fulfilling. And I think helping people that are good people is very fulfilling as well. So I don't know. It's just one foot in front of the other, and this life is a crazy journey.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I cannot fucking thank you enough for coming out here, man. I really
thank you,
appreciate
brother.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Shout
for
out to
having
Trevor
me.
again for making this connection here and Skrill in the studio, dude. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Roll Call with Chappy. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us some feedback. We would love to know what you think. You can find everything discussed in this episode and more in our show notes below or petermyeroff.com. I am Peter Myeroff, and you've been listening to the Roll Call with Chappy podcast.